Ancient cultures separated by entire oceans built near identical pyramids. This video reveals the compelling archaeological proof for a worldwide exchange of knowledge in antiquity, a discovery that shatters the traditional story of isolated human societies. By the end, you will see the entire ancient world through a new lens, connected by voyages we are only just beginning to understand. How did the same sacred geometry appear in both the deserts of Egypt and the jungles of Central America? What does a Norse coin found in a Native American settlement tell us about forgotten explorers? This journey uncovers a shared human heritage far more profound than we were ever taught. Does a hidden thread of connection change how you see our collective past? Deep in the humid jungles of southern Mexico, the stoic faces of the Olmec colossal heads stare out from the past. Carved from immense blocks of basalt, their features are unmistakable, with broad noses and full lips that, to some researchers, suggest a physical type not native to the Americas. This is where our search for a connected ancient world finds its footing. The conventional story tells us these great civilizations arose in isolation, yet these stone giants whisper a different, more intriguing possibility. Could they be evidence of transoceanic contact, a silent record of visitors from across the sea? This question pits two fundamental ideas against each other. On one side is independent invention, the powerful human capacity for similar innovations to spring up separately. On the other is cultural diffusion, the simple, profound process of ideas traveling from one group to another, carried by trade, migration, or shared experience. Archaeologists who explore these possibilities, like Dr. David Hatcher Childress, point not to a single dramatic event, but to the slow, steady currents of ancient travel. They propose a world knit together by forgotten sea routes, where skilled mariners used ocean currents and seasonal winds to connect continents. Knowledge was not carried in scrolls alone, but in the minds of people. A trader sharing a story, a migrant demonstrating a building technique, a refugee bringing their cultural symbols to a new land. Even major climate shifts could have triggered migrations, pushing entire communities across vast distances and carrying their worldviews with them. This is how a symbolic motif, a way of aligning a temple, or the very idea of a pyramid could travel, and travel it did. The pyramid form is a stunning example, emerging in the sands of Egypt and Sudan, and again in the heartlands of the Americas. This was not a blueprint copied perfectly, but a powerful concept adapted to local beliefs, materials, and environments. What is it that drives us to cross the next river, to sail beyond the horizon? It is a deep-seated curiosity, a relentless need to see what lies beyond the known world. This innate human drive is the engine behind the diffusion of knowledge. It suggests that our ancient ancestors were far more connected than we ever knew, and the evidence for this connection is etched into the very stones they left behind. These stones form our first major category of proof, the shared architectural marvels that defy the myth of isolation. These pyramids and ziggurats, separated by continents and centuries, share a secret language written in stone and sky. Look at the Great Pyramid of Giza, its sides aligned with near-perfect precision to the four cardinal directions. Then travel across the world to Teotihuacan in Mexico, where the Pyramid of the Sun is oriented along that very same celestial grid. This is not a coincidence, it is a pattern, a recurring signature of a deep understanding of the cosmos. Both structures and countless others like them are meticulously calibrated to the solstices, the equinoxes, and the movements of specific stars. This shared astronomical precision hints at a knowledge system so fundamental, it appears to have been a cornerstone for builders worldwide. The geometry itself seems sacred. Certain mathematical ratios, like the golden ratio or the precise value of pi, are encoded within the dimensions of these ancient monuments. How could cultures that supposedly never met independently discover and then physically manifest these same complex mathematical principles in their most important buildings? Engineers who study this phenomenon, like Christopher Dunn, point to a level of stonework that is breathtaking in its accuracy. The blocks fit together with seams you cannot slide a piece of paper into. Stones are shaped and placed with a precision that rivals modern machining. This suggests more than just brute force. It points to a sophisticated and possibly shared technological understanding. So why a pyramid? The shape itself is a marvel of intuitive engineering. Its broad base and narrowing apex provide incredible stability, allowing it to withstand millennia of earthquakes and erosion. Symbolically, it represents a cosmic mountain, a ladder between the earth and the heavens, a concept that resonates across human cultures. It is a form that channels both spiritual aspiration and practical genius. When you see a pyramid in Egypt and a pyramid in Peru, you are not just looking at similar shapes. You are looking at the same profound ideas about the universe expressed in local stone. This points to a shared foundation, a common source of knowledge that flowed across the ancient world, connecting humanity through a unified vision of heaven and earth. This shared vision extended beyond architecture and into the very symbols these cultures held sacred. The same celestial conversation written in pyramids is echoed by silent rings of stone scattered across the globe. From the windswept Salisbury Plain in England to the arid sands of Nabta Playa in Egypt, ancient builders raised colossal stones into precise formations. These are not random monuments, they are colossal calendars, observatories, and perhaps even temples, all speaking a common language of astronomy. The famous Stonehenge is just one example in a vast, worldwide network of megalithic alignments. In northwestern France, the Karnak stones stretch for miles, thousands of standing stones arranged in mysterious rows and avenues. Far to the east, in India, similar circles and menhirs stand as silent sentinels. This global phenomenon suggests a shared and incredibly advanced understanding of the cosmos. How did these cultures, separated by immense distances, achieve such precision? Archaeologists like Aubrey Burrell, who dedicated his life to studying these circles, noted their primary function was to track time itself. The stones act as permanent sightlines, capturing the sun's rays on the solstice or framing the moon at its most extreme northern or southern rise. At the Callanish stones in Scotland, for instance, the entire complex is aligned to a complex 19-year lunar cycle, a sophisticated astronomical feat. The methods used to erect these monuments are a testament to a lost engineering genius. Without modern machinery, these cultures moved stones weighing tens of tons. They likely used a combination of log rollers, levers, rafts, and immense communal effort, orchestrating the movement of the earth itself to map the heavens. Could such precise and specific knowledge of celestial mechanics have been born in complete isolation, over and over again? It seems improbable. The consistent focus on the same celestial events, the solstices, the equinoxes, the cycles of the moon and certain stars, points toward a common source, a foundational knowledge of the sky that was then adapted locally. This was not just about marking the seasons for agriculture, though that was crucial. It was about connecting human life to the grand cosmic order, a spiritual and scientific pursuit that appears to have been a universal human drive. This global language of the stars hints at a deeper, underlying scientific principle at work, a shared technological knowledge that allowed our ancestors to build with such breathtaking accuracy and foresight. The mastery of stone and sky finds a parallel in the transformative power of fire and metal. Across the ancient world, humanity learned to pull magnificent objects from the earth itself, turning rock into shimmering tools and sacred art. The story of bronze is a pivotal chapter in this global saga. This resilient alloy of copper and tin emerged not in one cradle of civilization, but in several, from the workshops of Mesopotamia to the forges of the pre-Columbian Andes. Its appearance poses a profound question. Did this revolutionary technology spring up independently in isolated pockets of the world, or was it a secret carried along the same invisible routes that connected pyramid builders and astronomers? The answer may lie not just in the finished objects, but in the intricate methods used to create them. One technique in particular stands out: the lost wax casting method. Imagine a skilled artisan in ancient Mesopotamia carefully sculpting a figure in beeswax, coating it in thick clay to form a mold, and then heating it until the wax melts and drains away, leaving a perfect hollow cavity. Molten metal is poured into this space, and once it cools, the clay mold is broken open to reveal a solid metal object, an exact duplicate of the original wax sculpture. This very same complex process, with all its steps identical, was used thousands of years later by master metalworkers in the Americas to create the breathtaking gold ornaments of the Moche culture in Peru. How could such a specific and multi-stage technical process be conceived of twice? Metallurgists like Dr. Vincent Pigot highlight the immense challenges of early smelting, requiring precise control of temperature and a deep understanding of chemistry to purify ores and create consistent alloys. The technological leap from working native copper to creating bronze is enormous. When we see cultures in West Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Andes not only making this leap but also producing similar artifact types like ceremonial axes and resonant bells, and even achieving similar alloy compositions, the case for independent invention grows more strained. Consider the gold plating techniques of ancient Egypt and South America. Artisans in both regions developed a method called depletion gilding, a sophisticated chemical process where a gold and copper alloy object is treated with a natural acid, like from sour fruit, to dissolve the copper from the surface. This leaves behind a thin, pure, and brilliant layer of gold, making a precious resource stretch further while creating a stunning visual effect. Is it truly plausible that two cultures, separated by an ocean, would independently discover this identical, non-intuitive chemical trick? The consistent replication of such specific, complex knowledge points toward something more than parallel genius. It suggests the exchange of practical, hands-on understanding, a sharing of chemical recipes and artistic techniques that traveled with traders and artisans across vast distances. This shared mastery of materials, from the ringing of a cast bronze bell in China to the gleam of a gilded mask in Peru, reveals a world where the most valuable cargo was not the metal itself, but the knowledge of how to unlock its hidden potential. A coiled serpent, a spiral reaching for the sky, a radiant sun disk. These are more than just decorations. They are a silent language carved into temple walls and painted onto pottery across the ancient world, from the banks of the Nile to the heart of Aztec Mexico and the lost cities of the Indus Valley. Why do the same core symbols emerge again and again in cultures separated by oceans and millennia? This puzzle leads us into the realm of archetypes, the fundamental symbols and stories that seem to be hardwired into the human psyche. The renowned mythologist Joseph Campbell explored this concept through the idea of the monomyth, a single great story with shared characters and journeys that appears in every culture, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the legends of the Maya. It is as if humanity shares a collective dream. The serpent is a powerful example. In ancient Egypt, the serpent Apep was a force of chaos, battling the sun god Ra each night. Yet in Mesoamerica, the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl was a benevolent bringer of knowledge and renewal. This dual nature, representing both destructive chaos and life-giving rebirth, appears in serpent symbolism across the globe. Can the shared experience of being human, of fearing venomous creatures and witnessing the shedding of skin as a form of regeneration, fully explain such a specific and complex parallel. The spiral is another universal voice. It appears on megalithic tombs in Ireland, on Minoan pottery in Crete, and in the rock art of the American Southwest. It can symbolize the journey of life, the cycles of rebirth, the swirling cosmos, or the path of the sun. When we see the same intricate spiral used to represent the same core cosmological idea in vastly different times and places, it challenges the notion of complete isolation. Consider the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl. This Mesoamerican deity finds startling echoes in the dragon myths of Asia and Europe, creatures often depicted as wise, serpentine, and connected to water and the heavens. Are these merely coincidental monsters of the mind, or could they be distant cultural memories of the same foundational idea, carried across the world and adapted to local beliefs? The evidence suggests that our ancestors were not just sharing building techniques or metalworking skills. They were sharing a worldview, a set of stories that explained their place in the universe. These recurring symbols are the vocabulary of that shared human experience. They form a bridge of meaning that connects us to every ancient culture, revealing a deep, underlying unity in how we process the mysteries of life, death, and the cosmos. If this symbolic language was indeed carried across oceans, it would have traveled with people, and those people would have carried with them the very seeds of their survival. These shared symbols were not the only things carried across the seas. The very food that sustained ancient civilizations tells its own story of long-distance connection. How did a plant native to Africa appear in the Americas thousands of years before European contact? Archaeobotany, the science of studying ancient seeds and pollen, provides startling answers. Researchers like Dr. Alice Story analyze plant DNA to trace their journeys, revealing routes we never knew existed. The bottle gourd is a prime example. This useful plant, crucial for making containers and instruments, is native to Africa, yet its remains are found in ancient American sites dating back over 10,000 years. Did its seeds float across the Atlantic on ocean currents? Or was it a cherished possession of early voyagers, carried intentionally to a new world? The evidence points toward human agency. Then there is the case of the sweet potato. This staple crop originated in South America, but it was also present across Polynesia, from Hawaii to New Zealand, long before any documented European voyages. The name for the sweet potato in many Polynesian languages, kumara, is strikingly similar to its name in some Andean languages. This linguistic clue, paired with genetic studies, strongly suggests that Polynesian seafarers, the greatest navigators of the ancient world, reached the South American coast and returned home with this precious tuber. This was not a one-time accident, but likely a sustained contact that changed diets across the Pacific. The debate extends to animals as well. Archaeological finds in Chile revealed chicken bones that date to a period before Spanish arrival. Genetic analysis suggests a potential link to Polynesian fowl, opening the possibility that chickens, too, made the Transoceanic journey. What does the movement of a simple foodstuff say about our past? It speaks of sustained interaction, of shared meals between distant cultures, and of the fundamental human desire to exchange not just ideas, but the very sources of life. Other plants hint at this global network. Certain cottons share genetic markers between Asia and the Americas, and some types of maize appear in unexpected places far from their origin. A seed is a tiny time capsule. It does not simply suggest that two cultures might have met. It proves that they shared the building blocks of their survival. This botanical evidence paints a picture of a world where the oceans were not impassable barriers, but highways for the exchange of life itself. To navigate those highways required a level of technology that we are only now beginning to appreciate, a mastery of the sea written not on stone but in the waves. The vastness of the open ocean was not a barrier, but a challenge met with extraordinary ingenuity. the idea that ancient cultures were confined to coastlines is steadily eroded by the discovery of their sophisticated vessels. Maritime archaeologists like Dr. Cheryl Ward have studied the remnants of Egyptian seagoing ships, revealing craft built with advanced wooden joinery and lashed together for flexible strength in rough seas. Far to the south, on the high-altitude waters of Lake Titicaca, the Yoruba people still build boats from bundled totora reeds, a design echoing ancient models found in depictions from Mesopotamia to the Andes. These were not simple rafts, but purpose-built ships capable of carrying substantial cargo and people across formidable distances. The Phoenicians, masters of the Mediterranean, constructed large ocean-going vessels with deep hulls and square sails, venturing down the Atlantic coast of Africa. Yet perhaps the most unparalleled navigators were the Polynesians. They developed the double-hulled canoe, a stable and massive platform that could transport entire communities across the Pacific, using their profound knowledge of the sea to settle islands scattered across millions of square miles of open water. Their navigation techniques were a form of high art, a science passed down through generations. They read the subtle patterns of swells reflected off distant islands, watched the flight paths of specific seabirds at dusk, and memorized a celestial map of stars that guided them as surely as any modern instrument. They understood the seasonal shifts of prevailing winds and the powerful, river-like currents of the ocean, using them as natural highways. This knowledge was not theoretical. In the mid-20th century, the Kon-Tiki expedition, a daring experiment led by Thor Heyerdahl, demonstrated this principle with stunning clarity. Heyerdahl and his crew built a balsa wood raft using only indigenous materials and techniques, then set sail from South America. Their successful journey across the Pacific to Polynesia, relying entirely on winds and currents, proved that such transoceanic voyages were not just possible, but practical with ancient technology. This was not an isolated feat. Similar replicative voyages have since crossed the Atlantic in reed boats, silencing critics who claimed such materials would disintegrate in salt water. The evidence is not just in the boats themselves, but in the infrastructure they required. The discovery of ancient harbor works in India, like those at Lothal, with their carefully designed docks and warehouses, points to a bustling, organized maritime trade. Depictions of large, ocean-going ships appear in the art of the Minoans in Crete and in ancient Indonesian reliefs, showing vessels with multiple masts and cabins. Even the controversial finds of ancient Roman coins in the Americas, while hotly debated, force us to ask new questions. Could a storm-blown Roman galley have ever reached a distant shore, its small cargo of coins left behind as a silent, puzzling clue? When you piece together the shipbuilding skill, the celestial navigation, and the sheer will to explore, the prospect of ancient transoceanic contact transforms from a fringe theory into a historical probability. Can you fathom the courage it would take to point a wooden hull toward an empty horizon, trusting only the stars and the sea to guide you to a land you only hoped existed? This proven seafaring ability is the final, crucial piece of the puzzle. It provides the mechanism, the very vehicle for the global exchange of ideas. With these capable ships navigating the world's oceans, the discovery of specific artifacts linking distant continents becomes not a shock, but an expectation. A small, unassuming stone unearthed from a burial mound in Tennessee in the late 19th century would ignite a firestorm of debate that still burns today. Known as the Bat Creek Stone, it bears a curious inscription, a series of marks that, to some experts, are unmistakably ancient Hebrew. If authentic, this artifact would stand as physical proof of pre-Columbian contact between the Old World and the heart of North America, a claim that directly challenges established historical timelines. This is where our investigation turns to the science of epigraphy, the meticulous study of ancient writing. specialists in this field like the noted scholar Dr. Cyrus Gordon argued that the script was a form of Paleo-Hebrew, specifically identifying the letters as spelling out a phrase meaning for the Judeans. His analysis suggested the stone was not a random scrawl, but a deliberate, legible inscription. The controversy, however, lies in the details of its discovery and the stone itself. Mainstream archaeologists point out that the excavation records from the period are often incomplete, leaving room for doubt about the exact context in which the stone was found. Could it have been a later addition or even a hoax? Material analysis has been inconclusive, unable to definitively date the carving on the stone's surface. This creates a perfect storm of uncertainty, where belief often hinges on which set of evidence one finds more compelling. The Bat Creek stone is not alone. Across the American Southwest, other enigmatic inscriptions have been reported, like the Los Lunas Decalogue stone in New Mexico, which appears to bear the Ten Commandments written in a similar ancient Hebrew script. These out-of-place artifacts force a difficult question upon the field of archaeology. How do we handle evidence that does not fit our prevailing narrative? The scientific process is built on skepticism, demanding rigorous proof, yet it must also remain open to paradigm-shifting discoveries. The debate over the Bat Creek stone is a microcosm of this tension. Is it a modern forgery, an ancient relic, or something else entirely? The stone itself offers no easy answers, only a silent challenge from the past. It asks us to consider whether our maps of ancient human migration are complete, or if we have missed entire chapters of contact and exchange. This single stone from Tennessee represents a whole class of controversial finds that whisper of forgotten voyages, compelling us to look closer at the evidence buried beneath our feet. While the Bat Creek stone remains a subject of fierce debate, a small coin found on the coast of Maine tells a story that is now firmly accepted. This is the Maine penny, a Norse silver coin unearthed at a Native American settlement site in Penobscot Bay. Its discovery transformed a legendary Viking saga into verified history. Minted in Norway between the 11th and 12th centuries, this single coin is a tangible piece of a much larger narrative, one of Norse ships reaching the shores of North America some 500 years before Columbus. It was found amidst the shell heaps and tools of an indigenous community, a silent token of an encounter between two worlds. Archaeologists working at the confirmed Norse site of El Ants Ox Meadows in Newfoundland, like Dr. Birgitta Wallace, have pieced together how such an object might have traveled. The Norse settlement in Newfoundland served as a base for exploration further south, and while they may not have established permanent colonies, they did trade with the local peoples they called Skraelings. A silver coin, perhaps lost from a pouch or offered in trade for furs or provisions, found its way into the earth of Maine, waiting for centuries to be rediscovered. This accepted evidence does more than just confirm a Viking presence. It validates the very possibility of transoceanic contact, proving that the oceans were navigable by ancient peoples and that such long-distance voyages did result in cultural exchange. So why is this coin embraced by mainstream archaeology while other artifacts are met with skepticism? The answer often lies in context and corroboration. The Maine penny was found in a carefully documented archaeological context by professional researchers, and its identity is unambiguous. More importantly, it aligns perfectly with the archaeological footprint at El Ants Ox Meadows and the stories preserved in the Viking sagas. It fits a pattern we can now see clearly. This established fact forces a profound question. If we accept that Norse explorers successfully crossed the North Atlantic and interacted with Native Americans, why do we so readily dismiss the possibility of other, perhaps earlier, voyages across the Pacific or even the Atlantic from different directions? The Maine penny acts as a key, unlocking the door to a more open-minded re-evaluation of global history. It demonstrates that a single, verified artifact can shift an entire paradigm, moving our idea from the realm of fantasy into the pages of our textbooks. This confirmed contact shows us that the ancient world was far more dynamic and interconnected than we once believed, inviting us to look at every other anomalous find with fresh, curious eyes. The colossal heads of the Olmec are not their only mystery. In the fertile coastal plains of southern Mexico, this mother culture seemed to emerge from the jungle fully formed, with a sophisticated society that would set the template for all later Mesoamerican civilizations. Their sudden appearance around 1500 years before the Common Era presents a fundamental question. Did they develop in complete isolation, or were they influenced by ideas from across the sea? Mainstream archaeology, represented by researchers like Dr. Rebecca Gonzalez-Lorque, emphasizes a long, gradual process of local development. Her work at major sites like La Venta reveals a complex society with monumental earthworks, elaborate drainage systems, and a stratified social structure that evolved over centuries. The Olmec were master artists, creating not only the giant heads but also intricate jade carvings, and possibly the earliest form of writing in the Americas, with glyphs that hint at a developed calendar system. Their influence is undeniable. Their artistic styles, their ritual ball game, and their symbolic motifs like the word jaguar were adopted and adapted by the Maya and the Aztecs. This perspective sees the Olmec as brilliant indigenous innovators, yet the alternative theory of transoceanic contact persists, largely because of those striking stone faces. The features on the colossal heads, with their broad noses and full lips, are often cited as evidence for an African presence in the Americas. This diffusionist view suggests that voyagers from across the Atlantic could have arrived, bringing with them knowledge of sculpture, astronomy, or governance that catalyzed Olmec development. The debate often centers on the jade they prized so highly. Scientific analysis of the distinctively colored Olmec blue jade has traced it to a single source in the mountains of Guatemala, proving the Olmec established extensive and sophisticated trade networks over difficult terrain. If they could move massive basalt boulders from quarries dozens of miles away, could they not also have received ideas from even farther afield? The ball game itself, a central part of Olmec life and religion, finds curious echoes in ball courts from ancient Mesopotamia to Polynesia. Are these parallels a result of shared human ritual or something more? How does a civilization appear with such a complete and influential cultural package, seemingly without a long, visible period of experimentation? The Olmec do not give up their secrets easily. Their cities were eventually abandoned and reclaimed by the jungle, leaving behind enigmatic monuments and a legacy that shaped a continent. Their mystery forces us to wonder if the story of human civilization is not a series of isolated sparks, but a single, slowly spreading fire, its embers carried on ocean currents to ignite genius in unexpected places. The sacred art of preserving the body for eternity finds its echo in the driest deserts and the highest mountains. While the golden masks of Egyptian pharaohs are world famous, they are not alone. On the arid coast of Chile and Peru, the Chinchorro people perfected mummification more than 2,000 years before the first Egyptian royal was ever wrapped in linen. This parallel practice across vast divides of space and time presents a haunting riddle. Is the desire to cheat decay a universal human instinct? Or could the intricate methods themselves be a sign of shared knowledge? The Chinchorro technique was remarkably sophisticated. They would carefully remove the skin and muscles, then reinforce the skeleton with sticks and reassemble the body, modeling the features back onto the face with clay before replacing the skin and covering the entire form in a paste of manganese, which gave the mummies a striking black color. This was a communal, loving act performed for people of all ages and social status, not just elites. Compare this to the Egyptian method, where internal organs were removed and stored in canopic jars. the body treated with natron salt for 40 days, and then meticulously wrapped in hundreds of yards of linen bandages, often coated in resin. The spiritual motivation, however, resonates across cultures. Egyptologists note that for the Egyptians, preservation of the physical form was essential for the soul's journey to the afterlife. The Khan needed a home to return to. In the Andes, where mountain peaks were seen as divine ancestors, preserving the body may have been a way to maintain a physical connection to the lineage and the sacred landscape. The materials used were locally sourced. The Chinchorro used manganese and clay from their coastal environment, while the Egyptians utilized the natron salts abundant in their deserts and resins from local trees. This suggests adaptation, not direct copying, yet the core concept remains startlingly similar: the deliberate, complex intervention to halt the natural process of decomposition for a profound spiritual purpose. This practice even appears in the Canary Islands, where the Guanches used methods eerily reminiscent of both traditions. So what does this tell us? The near-universal appearance of such a specific and intimate practice points to something deep within the human psyche, a profound concern with what lies beyond, and a powerful desire to maintain a tangible link to those who have passed. But when we see cultures separated by oceans developing such complex and parallel technical solutions, it forces us to wonder if a whisper of the method, the very idea of preservation, might have traveled with early seafarers, inspiring each culture to find its own path to immortality. The deep sea holds secrets that can shatter our understanding of the past. In 1901, sponge divers off the coast of a small Greek island called Antikythera stumbled upon the wreck of a Roman-era ship. Amidst the shattered statues and ancient pottery, they recovered a corroded lump of bronze that seemed utterly out of place. For decades, it was a museum curiosity, its true nature hidden beneath layers of calcified rock. Then, researchers began to peer inside. Using advanced imaging technology, they discovered a complex clockwork of interlocking bronze gears, a device of staggering mechanical genius now known as the Antikythera Mechanism. This was not a simple tool, it was an ancient analog computer, a machine built to predict the motion of the heavens with breathtaking accuracy. Historians of science like Dr. Tony Freeth, who has led the ongoing investigation, describe it as more advanced than any instrument known for the next 1,000 years. Its delicate gears, some with teeth cut with microscopic precision, calculated the positions of the sun and moon, predicted eclipses, and even modeled the irregular orbit of the moon. It was a portable cosmos, a universe in a box. How could such a technological marvel exist in the 2nd century before the Common Era? The device forces us to reconsider the entire landscape of ancient Greek science. Was this mechanism a singular flash of brilliance, a lone invention from a genius like Archimedes, whose lost writings may have inspired it? Or was it the pinnacle of a much wider, now lost, tradition of Chinese letter engineering? We find hints of this lost knowledge in the writings of other ancient thinkers. Hero of Alexandria described elaborate automata, self-operating machines powered by steam, water, and air pressure, creating moving statues and even a fully automated puppet theater. These were not just toys, they were demonstrations of a profound understanding of physics and engineering. The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a stark reminder that technological progress is not a straight upward line. It is a story of peaks and valleys, of knowledge gained, lost, and sometimes rediscovered centuries later. The intricate gearwork of the mechanism would not be seen again until the great astronomical clocks of medieval Europe. Can you grasp the profound implications of such a loss? An entire language of engineering, a way of modeling the cosmos in metal, simply vanished from the Western world for over a millennium. This single artifact raises a haunting possibility. If the Greeks could achieve this, what other cultures might have developed similar sophisticated technologies, their secrets now lying undiscovered on the ocean floor or buried in the sands of time. The Antikythera Mechanism is a message from the past telling us that our ancestors were far more capable and their world far more connected than our history books often allow. A map drawn in Constantinople in the year 1513 holds a secret that should not exist. The Piri Reis map, a stunningly detailed world chart compiled by the Ottoman admiral for whom it is named, depicts the Atlantic Ocean and the coastlines of the Americas with remarkable precision. Yet its most baffling feature lies at the bottom of the world, a landmass many believe represents Antarctica, but not as we know it today. This southern continent is shown with bays, inlets, and what appear to be river systems, all rendered with the clear implication that this land was free of ice. Modern science confirms that Antarctica was last ice-free millions of years ago, a timescale that defies any conventional understanding of human history. How could a 16th-century cartographer have possibly known the shape of a continent buried under miles of ice? Admiral Piri Reis himself provided a clue in the map's extensive notes, where he openly stated that his work was a compilation, pulling from many source maps, including what he called the maps of the ancients. This suggests his chart was not a product of original exploration, but a copy of a copy, a fragment of a far more ancient geographical knowledge that had been preserved and passed down through the centuries. It forces us to ask, who were these ancients, and how did they map the world with such impossible accuracy? Cartographic historians like Dr. Gregory McIntosh offer a critical perspective, pointing out that the map contains known errors and that the southern landmass could be a speculative, composite drawing of a hypothetical terra australis, a common feature on maps of the era. Yet, even with these rational explanations, the correlation between certain features on the Piri Reis map and the subglacial topography of Antarctica, as revealed by modern seismic surveys, remains deeply unsettling. The map seems to show the Queen Maud Land coastline with a startling resemblance to its true, hidden shape. This is not an isolated case. The Orontius Phineus world map of 1531 also depicts Antarctica in stunning detail, with mountain ranges and fjords that align with what we now know lies beneath the ice. The Vinland map, despite its controversies, purported to show the Norse discoveries in North America long before they were accepted by mainstream history. Could all of these simply be extraordinary coincidences, the result of lucky guesses by skilled artists, or do they point to a more profound reality? The techniques of ancient mapmaking required not just artistic skill, but a sophisticated understanding of spherical trigonometry to project a curved world onto a flat surface. This was not a simple art, it was a complex science. The argument for a prehistoric seafaring civilization rests on this very point, that only a culture with the ability to circumnavigate the globe could have produced the original source maps that these later works are based upon. This knowledge, perhaps carved on clay tablets or etched onto treated leather, would have been the most valuable treasure of the ancient world, preserved in the great libraries of Alexandria or other centers of learning, only to be lost to fire, decay, and the slow erosion of time. How does a civilization forget the very shape of its own world? It is a haunting reminder that knowledge is fragile, and that entire chapters of human achievement can vanish, leaving behind only these cryptic echoes in ink and parchment. These maps are not just historical curiosities, they are potential proof of a forgotten age of explorers whose names we will never know, whose ships sailed every ocean, and whose legacy is written not in stone, but in the ghostly outlines of continents they once knew. Plato's account of a sophisticated island civilization swallowed by the sea is far from unique. Cultures across the globe, from the Maya to the Hopi to the ancient traditions of India, tell strikingly similar stories of a great deluge that reset the world. These are not just tales of destruction, they are narratives of profound loss, recounting a time when advanced knowledge and a connected world vanished beneath the waves. This recurring motif suggests something more than mere fiction. It hints at a deep cultural memory, perhaps rooted in real geological upheavals that shaped our planet's early history. Geologists like Dr. Robert Schoch have proposed that certain ancient structures, such as the Great Sphinx of Giza, show erosion patterns consistent with extensive water weathering, pointing to a much older origin during a period of significant rainfall thousands of years earlier than conventional timelines suggest. This raises the possibility that these myths preserve the echo of a time of dramatic climate shifts. The common threads in these stories are impossible to ignore. A cataclysmic flood is almost always preceded by a divine or prophetic warning. A chosen survivor, like the biblical Noah, the Sumerian Ziusudra, or the Mesoamerican figure Coxcox, builds a vessel to preserve life. And crucially, these stories speak of a lost golden age, a time when great knowledge and interconnectedness flourished before being taken away. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the hero Utnapishtim is instructed to build a boat to survive the god's wrath. In the Aztec legend, the goddess Chalchutlicue floods the world, transforming humanity into fish. The ancient Hindus wrote of Manu, who was saved by a great fish and went on to repopulate the earth. How could such specific narrative details arise independently across every inhabited continent? The most compelling scientific explanation points to the end of the last ice age. As glaciers melted between 15,000 and 7,000 years ago, global sea levels rose by nearly 400 feet, swallowing vast coastal plains and entire landmasses that once connected continents. The flooding of regions like Doggerland between Britain and Europe, or the Sunda Shelf in Southeast Asia, would have been a slow, relentless catastrophe witnessed by countless generations. These submerged lands were not empty, they were the homelands, the hunting grounds, and the trade routes of our ancient ancestors. The stories of Atlantis or Mu or any number of lost lands could be the poetic, distilled memories of these real, habitable zones that disappeared beneath the rising tides. What does it mean that nearly every culture feels compelled to tell a version of this same story? This universality suggests a shared human experience of a traumatic, world-altering event. It points to a time when the geography of the planet was fundamentally different, when land bridges may have allowed for the very exchanges of knowledge we see etched in pyramids and shared symbols. These flood myths are more than just allegories. They are the oldest histories we possess, oral traditions that have carried the truth of a lost world across hundreds of generations. They remind us that the solid ground beneath our feet is not permanent, and that the connections we are only now rediscovering were once part of a much older, global story. Long before the Silk Road earned its famous name, a web of ancient highways crisscrossed the continents. These were the original information superhighways, paths worn into the earth by the feet of traders and the hooves of pack animals, moving far more than just silk. The discovery of a single stone tells this deeper story. Deep within an Egyptian tomb dating to over 5,000 years ago, archaeologists found exquisite jewelry inlaid with lapis lazuli, a vibrant blue stone. The closest source for this mineral lies in the remote mountains of modern-day Afghanistan. To reach the Nile, this precious cargo traveled thousands of miles, passing through countless hands, cultures, and languages. This was not an isolated incident. Lapis lazuli from the same mines has been found in royal graves in Mesopotamia and as far east as the Indus Valley, all from a period millennia before the official Silk Road began. How did such a specific luxury item travel such vast distances in an age we consider primitive? The answer lies not with empires but with nomads. Researchers like Dr. Michael Fraschetti have shown that these early networks were not formal roads, but flexible corridors of interaction across the Eurasian steppe. nomadic pastoralists moving with their herds across seasonal grazing lands created a resilient and dynamic system of exchange. They were the original global connectors, carrying goods, gossip, and groundbreaking ideas between the great river valley civilizations. This was a trade in concepts as much as commodities. The chariot, a revolutionary technology of war and status, appears to have spread with astonishing speed from the Pontic-Caspian steppe, reaching both Mesopotamia and China in a relatively short span of time. Musical instruments, like certain types of lyres and flutes, show up in widely separated cultures with remarkably similar designs. Imagine a master horse rider from the steppes demonstrating the axle design for a new, lighter spoked wheel to a Mesopotamian merchant. Envision the same merchant later sharing the melody from a new stringed instrument with a traveler heading east toward the Indus Valley. This was the real currency of these routes, the shared knowledge that subtly reshaped societies. Can you trace the potential routes on a map? From the workshops of the Indus Valley, goods and ideas moved north into Central Asia. From there, they filtered west to the burgeoning cities of Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean, and east toward the emerging dynasties of China, all by the 3rd millennium before the Common Era. This sustained overland contact, happening for thousands of years, fundamentally prepared the ground for the classical world. It created a shared technological and cultural vocabulary across Eurasia. When we combine this picture of deeply interconnected land routes with the evidence of ambitious sea voyages, the isolated ancient world we once imagined completely dissolves, revealing a planet already in conversation with itself. Far to the east of Mesopotamia, another civilization was reaching its zenith, a society of meticulous city planners and master artisans known as the Indus Valley. For a long time, these two great cultures were studied as separate worlds, but then archaeologists began digging up pieces of each civilization in the other's backyard. In the ruins of Mesopotamian cities like they found small, square stone seals, intricately carved with elephants, unicorns, and a mysterious, still undeciphered script. These were not local creations, they were unmistakably Indus in style and manufacture. Conversely, in the great Indus metropolis of Mohenjo-Daro, objects of Mesopotamian origin began to appear. This was not a one-sided affair. It was a clear, documented two-way street of exchange happening around 2,500 years before the Common Era. Archaeologist Dr. Shireen Ratnagar, whose work has meticulously traced these connections, describes this as one of the world's first documented long-distance trade relationships. So what was flowing along these ancient routes? The Indus Valley was likely exporting luxurious, brightly colored cotton textiles, a fabric that would have been a marvel in Mesopotamia. They also sent prized carnelian beads, etched in white with complex patterns, and perhaps even peacocks and timber. In return, they may have received silver, gold, and other precious goods. The Mesopotamians even left a name for their distant trading partner in their cuneiform tablets, referring to a land called Meluha, a place from which ships brought exotic cargo. Most scholars are now convinced that Meluha was the Indus Valley. This forces a profound shift in perspective. We are not looking at isolated sparks of civilization, but at a network. How did these goods and ideas travel? The most likely route was the sea, a long but manageable coastal voyage from the Indus Delta, around the Arabian Peninsula, and up into the Persian Gulf. This journey would have required immense skill and courage, with sailors navigating by the stars and coastal landmarks in ships built of wood and reeds. Imagine a Mesopotamian merchant unrolling a bolt of fine Indus cotton, a fabric unlike any produced in his homeland. Consider an Indus craftsman studying a new motif on an imported Mesopotamian cylinder seal. This was more than commerce, it was a continuous, slow drip of cultural influence. The very presence of these foreign objects in high-status contexts tells us they were valued, they had meaning. This confirmed link shatters the illusion of isolation. It provides a concrete model for how knowledge could travel across vast distances, not through mythical super-civilizations, but through the pragmatic, relentless efforts of traders and sailors. If these two powerful, complex societies were in direct contact, then the entire landscape of the ancient world begins to look less like a collection of separate islands and more like a single, interconnected web. Their canoes were not just vessels but floating worlds. To settle the Pacific, Polynesian explorers developed the double-hulled canoe, or Wakolua, a design of profound stability and capacity. Two narrow hulls were lashed together with a solid platform between them, creating a ship that could brave the mightiest ocean swells while carrying entire families, their plants, their animals, and their hopes for a new home. These were the spacecraft of their age, carrying the seed of a culture across a sea of stars. At the helm stood the navigator, a figure of immense prestige and spiritual discipline. He did not use maps or a compass, his mind was his instrument. He memorized a celestial map, knowing the precise rising and setting points of hundreds of stars, using them as fixed points on the ocean's vast, featureless dome. When clouds obscured the sky, he read the ocean itself. He learned to feel the subtle patterns of swells as they reflected off unseen islands dozens of miles away, a sensation like hearing a distant echo. He watched the flight of specific seabirds at dusk, knowing their maximum range from land, and he observed the types of driftwood and seaweed that floated past, each a clue to nearby shores. This entire body of knowledge was passed down through chants and apprenticeships, a living library of the sea. Modern navigator Nainoa Thompson, who relearned these ancient techniques to sail the Hokulea canoe from Hawaii to Tahiti in 1976, describes it as a state of complete awareness. You are constantly observing, constantly feeling, he explains, connecting yourself to the rhythm of the natural world. The timeline of their expansion is a staggering story of human courage. Starting from islands in the Western Pacific like Fiji and Tonga, they pushed eastward in great waves. They reached the Marquesas around 2,000 years ago, then fanned out to settle the most remote corners of the planet, from Hawaii in the north to Rapa Nui or Easter Island in the southeast, and finally Aotearoa or New Zealand in the southwest. Each of these voyages was a leap into the absolute unknown, a deliberate journey across thousands of miles of open ocean with no guarantee of finding land. What drove this incredible expansion? Was it population pressure, a spirit of adventure, or the simple human need to see what was beyond the horizon? Whatever the motivation, their success proves that sustained, long-distance ocean travel was not just a fantasy, but a reality achieved with breathtaking skill. The most compelling evidence for their farthest voyages lies in a humble root vegetable. The sweet potato, a crop native to South America, was present across Polynesia long before any European ship arrived. Its name in many Polynesian languages, Kumara, is strikingly similar to its name in the Quechua language of the Andes. This linguistic clue, paired with genetic studies of the plant, strongly suggests that Polynesian seafarers reached the coast of South America and returned home with this valuable food source. Can you envision that moment of contact when Polynesian explorers, the greatest navigators of the Pacific, met the cultures of the Andes? What stories did they share around a fire on a beach somewhere in Chile or Peru? What knowledge of the stars, of the ocean, of building, or of governance might have been exchanged in that fleeting encounter? The sweet potato is a silent witness, a botanical signature of a journey that connected two worlds. This was not a one-way street of influence, but a true exchange, proving that the flow of ideas and life itself moved in all directions across the ancient oceans. The story of transatlantic contact grows far more complex and contentious when we look beyond the established Viking presence. scattered across the Americas are artifacts and inscriptions that, if verified, would rewrite our history books, yet they remain locked in a fierce battle between belief and skepticism. Take the mysterious stone tower in Newport, Rhode Island. Its simple, circular stone construction stands in a quiet park, a structure that for generations was popularly attributed to the Norse. However, meticulous archaeological investigation tells a different story. Researchers like Dr. Kenneth Feder point to land deeds and architectural analysis that firmly place its construction in the colonial 17th century, likely as a windmill. This is a classic case where a compelling story clashes with the hard evidence of historical records and mortar analysis. It serves as a vital lesson in the importance of context and provenance. How do we separate a genuine mystery from a romantic myth? The answer often lies in the unglamorous details of soil layers, construction techniques, and original documents. Another category of evidence comes from the realm of language itself. Some researchers have pointed to apparent similarities between certain Native American words and those from ancient Old World languages like Hebrew or Egyptian. These linguistic parallels are tantalizing, suggesting a thread of connection across the ocean. Yet, linguists caution that such similarities can be deceptive, often arising from pure coincidence, mispronunciation, or later contamination after European contact. Languages evolve in complex ways, and finding a few matching words without a deeper grammatical connection is like finding two identical leaves in different forests. It does not prove the forests are connected. The most infamous case of epigraphic evidence is the Paraíba inscription from Brazil. In the late 19th century, a stone surfaced bearing what appeared to be a Phoenician text describing a voyage from the Red Sea to a distant shore. The academic world was initially electrified, but the excitement was short-lived. The inscription's discoverer had a dubious reputation. The stone itself mysteriously vanished, and the script contained grammatical errors and stylistic anachronisms that experts quickly identified as hallmarks of a modern forgery. It was likely crafted using a widely available grammar book of the era. This episode highlights the immense challenges of this field, where a single, clever hoax can poison the well for legitimate, if controversial, discoveries. So where does this leave us? These controversial claims, from the Newport Tower to lost inscriptions, force us to hone our critical thinking. They ask us to demand rigorous evidence while remaining open to the possibility that the human story is more surprising than we know. Evaluating them is not about choosing sides, but about understanding the careful, often frustrating process of historical inquiry, where every claim must be weighed not by its appeal, but by its proof. A tree connects all worlds, its roots in darkness and its branches in the light. This is not the lore of a single culture, but a startlingly consistent vision found from the frozen north to the tropical rainforest. The Norse told of Yggdrasil, an immense ash tree whose roots reached into the underworld of Hell, and whose highest branch stretched over the realm of the gods, Asgard. Far across the ocean, the Maya depicted a great ceiba tree, the Waka-chan, its roots descending into the watery underworld of Xibalba and its branches holding up the heavens. Both are more than simple myths. They are maps of the cosmos, describing a universe divided into three fundamental layers: the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. This tripartite view is a human universal. The ancient Hindus described the universe as being composed of three worlds or lokas: Bur the earth, Buwa the atmosphere, and Swa the celestial realm. The ancient Greeks had a similar conception with Hades, the mortal world, and Mount Olympus. Why would cultures with no apparent contact structure their entire understanding of reality around this identical three-tiered model? Comparative mythologists who study these patterns, like the late Joseph Campbell, point to the archetypal nature of these concepts. They arise from the most basic human experience. We stand upon the solid ground, we look up to the sky, and we know that beneath our feet lies the hidden earth. This is a natural, intuitive way to order the cosmos. Yet the similarities become far more specific and profound when we look closer. Each of these realms is populated by its own distinct beings and governed by its own rules. The underworld, whether called Hell, Xibalba, or the Hindu Patala, is consistently a place of transition, a realm of ancestors and cyclical return, often accessed through caves or bodies of water. The earthly realm is the middle place, the world of human experience and struggle. The heavens are the domain of order, power, and celestial beings, from the Norse Aesir to the Hindu Devas. The narratives that bind these realms are also eerily parallel. A great flood appears in nearly every one of these traditions, from the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh to the Hindu story of Manu, serving as a divine reset for humanity. A cycle of creation and destruction, of worlds being born, dying, and being reborn, is another common thread, seen in the Norse concept of Ragnarok and the Hindu cycles of yugas. And at the center of it all stands the Axis Mundi, the world tree or cosmic mountain, a pillar that provides structure and allows for communication between the layers of existence. Could the simple act of looking at a tree, with its roots digging deep and its branches reaching for the sky, have independently inspired such a complex and detailed cosmological principle in every corner of the globe? Or does the intricate consistency in the details, the specific roles of the deities, and the shared narrative arcs point toward a common ancestral belief that was carried along those ancient routes of exchange, adapting to each new land while preserving its core structure? This shared framework suggests that our deepest questions about life, death, and the nature of the universe may have been answered in a collective conversation, one whose echoes still resonate in our oldest stories. A human skull from 7,000 years ago bears a small, carefully drilled hole, its edges smoothed by new bone growth. This individual not only survived the procedure, they lived for years afterward. This practice, known as trepanation, appears in ancient Peru and in Neolithic Europe with a startling similarity of technique. The same story is told by a molar tooth unearthed at an Indus Valley site, its crown marked by a perfect tiny hole drilled to relieve an abscess. How is it possible that such specific, invasive surgical knowledge emerged in cultures separated by entire continents? Paleopathologists, the detectives of ancient disease, study these skeletal remains to understand the how and why. They note that trepanation was often performed to treat head injuries, perhaps to relieve pressure from a fractured skull. The tools varied, from obsidian blades in the Andes to flint scrapers in France, but the underlying principle was identical: to access the cranial cavity with minimal damage. The success rates, judged by bone healing, were remarkably high, suggesting this was not mere experimentation but a practiced, refined skill passed down through generations. Consider the bow drill used for that Indus Valley tooth. It is the same tool used for crafting beads, adapted for the most delicate work imaginable. Could the idea of using a rotating drill bit for dentistry have been a unique, one-time invention? Or does its appearance in such specialized contexts suggest a shared pool of technical knowledge? This parallel innovation extends to pharmacology. In South America, healers used coca leaves as a local anesthetic, a practice documented from ancient mummies. At the same time, across the world in Asia and Europe, other cultures were experimenting with plants like mandrake and opium for similar numbing effects. While the specific plants were local, the intent, the search for a chemical way to alleviate pain during procedures, was a global pursuit. Ancient Egyptian medical papyri detail sophisticated herbal compounds for treating wounds and infections, while Mesopotamian clay tablets record diagnoses and prognoses with a startlingly clinical tone. The Ebers papyrus from Egypt even describes a way to treat a necrotic toe, a procedure that would have required a clear understanding of anatomy and cleanliness. Can you envision a scenario where a healer priest from the Indus Valley, a surgeon from Peru, and a physician from Mesopotamia might have recognized a common purpose in each other's work? They all sought to mend the human body, to fight infection, and to manage pain, using the best tools and knowledge available to them. This universal drive to heal, to repair the self, points to a fundamental aspect of our shared humanity. The evidence etched into bone and recorded on papyrus suggests that the most valuable knowledge, the kind that alleviates suffering, may have been among the most precious cargo carried along those ancient routes of exchange. The recipe for Roman concrete was a secret lost for centuries, a formula that gave structures like the Pantheon its timeless strength. Yet the Romans were not alone in this mastery. Deep within the ruins of the Minoan palace of Knossos on Crete, archaeologists have uncovered sophisticated cisterns and aqueducts lined with a durable, waterproof cement. This material, created over 3,500 years ago, used a mixture of lime and volcanic ash from the nearby island of Santorini. This specific ash is what materials scientists call a pozzolan, a substance that, when mixed with lime and water, triggers a chemical reaction that creates an incredibly resilient and water-resistant binder. Dr. Marie Jackson, a geologist who has dedicated her career to Roman concrete, explains that the key is the formation of stable crystalline structures that actually grow stronger over time, especially in contact with seawater. This same principle was at work on the other side of the world. At the high-altitude site of Tiwanaku in Bolivia, builders of a culture predating the Inca fitted enormous stone blocks together with a thin, tenacious mortar. Analysis shows it was a form of cement made from local materials, including clay and calcium carbonate, creating a bond that has endured for over 1,000 years. How could such specific chemical knowledge, relying on the reactive properties of particular volcanic materials, arise in the Mediterranean and the Andes independently? The architectural applications reveal a shared genius for solving practical problems. The Romans used their concrete to build harbors that still stand today, their underwater portions growing more solid with the constant lapping of the waves. The Minoans used theirs to ensure a reliable water supply for their bustling palaces. In the Americas, this technology allowed for the creation of imposing, earthquake-resistant monuments. Was the development of pozzolanic cement a singular flash of insight that happened to strike multiple times in human history? Or does its presence in such distant corners of the ancient world point to a deeper, more connected understanding of the very earth we build upon? The stones themselves and the stuff that binds them suggest that the most enduring knowledge was often written in the language of chemistry and stone. A dragon is a creature that never was, yet it appears everywhere. In the cold fjords of Scandinavia, it was a winged serpent guarding a hoard of gold. In the misty highlands of China, it was a benevolent snake-like being controlling the rains. For the indigenous peoples of North America, the thunderbird ruled the skies with the power of storms. These are not minor similarities. They are profound parallels in the global imagination. How can we explain the fact that cultures separated by oceans and millennia all conjured up a massive, reptilian, often flying creature, usually associated with great power and elemental forces? Folklorists who map these stories, like the renowned Joseph Campbell, see two powerful forces at work. The first is the shared human experience of the natural world. Our ancestors everywhere would have encountered the same primal fears and wonders. The bones of long-extinct megafauna, eroding from a hillside, could easily be interpreted as the remains of a giant beast. The sudden, deadly strike of a venomous snake, the terrifying roar of a great cat, the majestic soar of an eagle, these experiences could have been fused together in the human mind, creating a composite creature that embodied the ultimate power and mystery of nature. This psychological explanation is compelling, yet the specific details of these myths give us pause. Consider the anatomy. From the European wyvern to the Mesoamerican feathered serpent, these beings are consistently chimeras. They combine the scaly body of a snake, the claws of a big cat, and often the wings or feathers of a bird. This is not a random assembly. It is a specific recipe repeated across the world. The roles they play are also strikingly consistent. They are rarely just monsters. They are creators and destroyers, bringers of both life-giving water and destructive fire, symbols of chaos that must be overcome and of wisdom that must be earned. Look at the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl in ancient Mexico. He was a god of wind, wisdom, and life itself. Then look to ancient Egypt, where the Ouroboros, a serpent eating its own tail, symbolized cyclicality and eternity, and where winged serpents were depicted as protective deities. The parallels are too intricate to dismiss as mere coincidence of thought. This leads to the second, more controversial possibility, that these stories themselves traveled. Could the core idea of a composite, powerful serpentine being have been a foundational myth carried by the earliest seafarers and migrants, a story that was then adapted to local fauna and beliefs? Perhaps a storyteller from one culture shared a tale of a great sky serpent with another, and that story, over generations, evolved into the dragon of a new land. The thunderbird of the Americas, with its control of weather, finds an echo in the Asian dragons who are also masters of rain and storms. Is it possible that our deepest mythical archetypes are not just products of isolated minds, but fragments of a very old, very widespread conversation? What does it say about us that we all seem to dream of the same beasts? This universality points to a shared symbolic language, one that may have been whispered across campfires and carried on trading ships, connecting humanity long before the first written word. Sound was a sacred material, as carefully shaped by ancient builders as the stones they placed. Deep within the hypogeum of Malta, a subterranean labyrinth carved from solid rock, lies the oracle chamber. Speak here and your voice is transformed, amplified into a deep, resonant echo that seems to emanate from the earth itself. This is not a quirk of architecture, it is a feature. Across the world, at the Mayan pyramid of Kukulkan, clap your hands at its base, and the returning echo does not sound like a clap at all, but the distinct chirp of the sacred Quetzal bird. These phenomena are too precise, too repeatable to be accidents. They point to a sophisticated understanding of archaeoacoustics, the science of sound in ancient spaces. Researchers like Dr. Stephen Waller have dedicated their careers to this field, mapping how sound waves reflect, diffract, and interfere within these structures. He proposes that the builders possessed an intuitive, yet advanced grasp of the physics involved. They understood that a curved surface would focus sound like a parabolic dish, that a long, narrow passage would create a fluttering echo, and that specific resonant frequencies could be achieved through careful calculation of a chamber's dimensions. The materials themselves were chosen for their sonic properties, with dense limestone and granite reflecting certain tones while absorbing others. This knowledge manifests in sights from the perfect intelligibility of a whisper in the back row of a Greek theatre to the haunting, low-frequency hum reported within certain Irish passage tombs like Newgrange. One compelling theory suggests that the specific resonant frequencies found in some of these chambers, often between 90 and 120 Hz, could physically affect human brainwave patterns. In such an environment, with rhythmic chanting or drumming, these sounds might help guide participants into a focused or altered state of consciousness, perhaps for ritual, healing, or divination. Is it possible that the pursuit of such profound sensory experiences was a universal human goal? Could the desire to harness the power of sound for spiritual connection have led cultures across the globe to independently discover the same acoustic principles? The echo in Malta and the chirp in Mexico suggest that our ancestors were not just building with stone, but with the very air we breathe, engineering experiences that resonated deep within the human body and spirit. This acoustic layer reveals a dimension of ancient genius we are only just beginning to hear. So much evidence from so many different fields points in the same direction. When we step back to view this entire mosaic, the isolated fragments of pottery, the scattered stones, and the shared stories begin to lock together into a single, breathtaking picture. The argument for a connected ancient world does not rest on one single, irrefutable artifact. Instead, it is built upon the cumulative weight of countless parallels, a convergence of data that becomes impossible to ignore. Think of it like a court case where no single witness can prove the entire story, but the testimony of dozens from different backgrounds and with different pieces of the puzzle creates an overwhelming body of evidence. This is the power of interdisciplinary synthesis, where archaeology, botany, linguistics, and mythology all whisper the same ancient secret. Scholars who champion this connected view, like the late Joseph Campbell in Mythology or Dr. David Hatcher Childress in Alternative History, urge us to move beyond a simplistic narrative of who came first. The real story is not about a single super-civilization seeding the world, but about a complex, multidirectional web of interaction. Ideas did not flow in one direction from a single source to passive recipients. They cross-fertilized over millennia, bouncing back and forth across oceans and continents, adapted and reinvented by every culture they touched. A shipbuilding technique perfected in the Pacific could have influenced boat design in the Indian Ocean. A mathematical principle discovered in one river valley might have traveled along trade routes to inspire an architect in another. The most robust anchors for this network are the proven connections, like the established trade between the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia, a documented two-way street of exchange happening thousands of years before Christ. Or the undeniable Polynesian dispersal, a feat of navigation that physically connected the islands of the Pacific with the shores of South America, proven by the humble sweet potato. These accepted historical facts provide the solid foundation upon which we can re-evaluate more speculative links, like the parallels in pyramid construction or the global flood myths. Imagine the ancient world not as a collection of isolated, glowing bubbles, but as a vast, dimly lit network with points of light representing cultures. Faint, glowing lines connect these nodes, representing the slow but steady travel of traders, migrants, and explorers. A bright, well-documented line connects Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. A sweeping, brilliant arc connects Polynesia to the Americas. Other lines are fainter, more speculative, connecting Egypt to the Olmec heartland or the Bronze Age Mediterranean to the Mississippi Valley. Some lines may have flashed into existence only once from a single storm-blown voyage, while others were well-traveled highways for centuries. This network model allows for both independent genius and shared inspiration. It acknowledges that a culture could develop its own unique identity while still being influenced by and influencing the wider world. The same society that independently domesticated its own plants could also adopt a new musical instrument or a novel way of working metal from a distant traveler. So, after this long journey through the evidence, what is your conclusion? Does the sheer volume of parallel development in technology, in symbolism, in cosmology, feel like a series of unbelievable coincidences? Or does it point toward a more dynamic, interconnected, and ultimately more fascinating human story? This synthesized view does not diminish the brilliance of our ancestors, it enriches it. It suggests they were not just isolated geniuses, but participants in a global conversation, one whose echoes we are only now learning to hear. This new perspective quietly dismantles the old foundation of history. For centuries, the story of human progress has been told as a linear race. a relay where the torch of civilization was passed from Mesopotamia to Greece and Rome, and then on to Western Europe. This narrative, often called the Eurocentric model, placed one part of the world at the center of the human story, framing all other cultures as latecomers or isolated curiosities. But the evidence of a connected ancient world shatters this simple timeline. It reveals a story not of a single torchbearer, but of a vast, multi-stranded web where innovation and ideas flowed in all directions. This is not just an academic adjustment. It is a profound paradigm shift that changes how we see ourselves and our shared past. Post-colonial historians and global historians have long argued for these more inclusive narratives. They point out that the old model was not just inaccurate, it was often a tool of power, used to justify colonialism by portraying certain societies as inherently more advanced. Unraveling this outdated story allows us to reclaim the true richness of our collective heritage. The very concept of discovery is transformed when we understand that Polynesian navigators reached South America long before Europeans, or that trade routes linked the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia for millennia. The idea of a 15th century European discovering a new world collapses. These lands were not undiscovered, they were already part of a complex global conversation. Their peoples were not waiting for history to begin, they were already living it, connected to a wider network we are only now remembering. This shift has real-world consequences. It changes what we teach in our schools. Instead of presenting ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and the early Americas as separate chapters in a textbook, we can show them as contemporaries, often aware of each other, trading goods and ideas across staggering distances. It changes how our museums display artifacts. A piece of Olmec jade is no longer just an object from an isolated Mexican culture, but a potential piece in a puzzle that spans oceans. Our popular media, from documentaries to films, can move beyond tropes of mysterious, lost civilizations and instead portray the ancient world as it likely was, dynamic, interconnected, and brilliantly innovative. How does this change your perception of different cultures today? Recognizing that the roots of science, mathematics, and philosophy are not the exclusive property of any one region, but a tapestry woven from countless threads across the globe, fosters a deep sense of global unity. It replaces a history of separation with a story of shared endeavor. This is not about taking away from the genuine achievements of any culture, but about adding to our collective understanding of human ingenuity. Our ancestors were not just building pyramids and sailing ships in isolation. They were participating in a slow, patient, worldwide exchange of knowledge. This shared heritage invites a greater respect for the diverse contributions that have shaped our modern world, reminding us that the greatest human projects have always been, in one way or another, a collective effort. Our journey through these whispers from the past reveals a world humming with connections. We have traced the echoes of shared knowledge from the sacred geometry of pyramids to the silent language of megalithic calendars, from the transformative fire of metallurgy to the humble journey of a sweet potato. These are not isolated curiosities, but threads in a vast, global tapestry woven by forgotten explorers and traders. This interconnected past challenges the very core of our historical narrative, pushing us to envision human potential on a grander scale. It speaks to the incredible resilience of ideas, how a building technique or a spiritual symbol could travel across continents and millennia, adapting and enduring. While many questions remain unanswered and academic debates will rightly continue, the sheer weight of this evidence invites us to embrace a more dynamic story. The possibility of a worldwide exchange in antiquity does not diminish the genius of individual cultures, but rather enriches our entire human heritage, highlighting a shared, relentless curiosity that propelled us forward. Let this exploration be a starting point for your own curiosity. We would love to hear which piece of evidence resonated most with you. Share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into humanity's deep past, consider subscribing for more content that seeks out the hidden connections shaping our world.